Welcome everybody, Derby Day in Kanagawa, and a fixture that in recent years has always been amongst the standout dates on the J-League calendar. Between them, Yokohama F Marinos and visitors Kawasaki Frontale have won the last 6 J1 titles. They were the top 2 in the last 2 seasons, and in 2022 were involved in a title race that went all the way to the final day. F Marinos came out on top in the end by 2 points, and they begin back on top again tonight in defence of their crown, with the opportunity here to stretch their lead over Vissel Kobe to 6 points with victory in this one. Aiming to do the double over Frontale in a season which started in a 2-1 success for them at Todoroki in the J1 curtain raiser back in February. It was a setback for Frontale, which seemed to set the tone for a disappointing season where they've so far fallen short of lofty standards and expectations. Never out of the top 4 since a 5th place finish in 2015. They kick off tonight down in 9th position, and that is despite a recent rally that has hinted at a return to form, confirmation of which they will hope to provide tonight at the home of their neighbours here at Nissan Stadium. It is only a short drive of around 10 miles or so from Kawasaki, the city that effectively separates Yokohama from the capital Tokyo. They are the 2 most populated cities in the Kanagawa prefecture, and over recent years their football clubs have wrestled for supremacy at the summit of the Japanese game. Other Kanagawa derbies, but this one is billed as the big one, and it matters that bit more than most to both sets of supporters. Two of the superpowers of Japanese football in recent years going head-to-head once again. They've taken the last 6 titles between them in J1 in dominating this division. They were the top 2 in 2022 when only those 2 points separated them after the final day. But this time there is 15 points between the leaders Yokohama F Marinos and their 9th place visitors from neighbouring Kawasaki, with Frontale slipping surprisingly this season into mid-table territory and in need of a lift on this grand stage tonight to help fuel a second half of the season surge back to where they want to be. Wonderful setting, isn't it? The big stage for a big occasion such as this. 200 J1 appearances for the F Marinos right-back Ken Matsubara, marked ahead of kickoff. Very much a regular in the champion starting lineup. Unlike their visitors, they have enjoyed greater consistency of selection this season, lack of which really has cost the side from Kawasaki. Recent form has been impressive for both, although F Marinos are attempting to bounce back from a disappointing defeat in midweek in the 3rd round of the Emperor's Cup. They went out of that competition beaten 4-1 by the J2 leaders. Mashida Zelvia was almost an entirely different team selected by Kevin Muscat. The rotation policy came back to cost them in a competition in which Frontale did progress through to the round of 16. Full focus on a tussle for J1 supremacy here. A really important game for F Marinos in particular, in defence of their title. Frontale traditionally in recent seasons certainly have been amongst their greatest challenges. Not so this year. Despite that, they will certainly attempt to provide the sternest of challenges today to change the narrative surrounding their own season, which has been such a frustrating one. Let's have a look at the team news for you. Yokohama F Marinos make just the one enforced change from the 2-2 draw at title rivals Nagoya Grampus a week ago. Takuma Nishimura, a scorer against Frontale on the opening day of the season, came off injured at half-time in that game. He is replaced in the 11 tonight by Marcos Jr., who makes just his 5th league start of the season. The Brazilian is the only member of this side who also started that surprise 4-1 defeat against J2 leaders Mashida Zelvia in the 3rd round of the Emperor's Cup on Wednesday. Joel Fujita, a goal scorer at Grampus, continues to keep out captain Takuya Kida, who is back on the bench. Centre-back Eduardo faces a former club, whilst up front Anderson Lopez is the division's 15-goal top scorer this season. Kida only amongst the bench. It is Eduardo that skippers the side against the club where he started his career. The referee comes from Qatar. It's a 4th game for Kamis El-Mari of his summer stint in J1. Saw England's Andy Madley do something similar last month. Ryo Tanamoto is the VAR in the booth this evening. There is also just the one change for Kawasaki Frontale from their last league game, the 3-0 win over Yokohama FC. That's in goal where Naoto Kamifukamoto makes a swifter than expected return, having been dropped to the bench for that one game after some high-profile errors. But last week's replacement, the vastly experienced Jung Sung Ryong, isn't involved today. Otherwise it is as you were, with the likes of Marcinho, Leandro Damião, Yu Kobayashi and Jesse L all still out injured. There's 8 changes from their Emperor's Cup win over Mito Hollyhock in midweek. Well, Kevin Muscat led his team to the title at Frontale's expense in his first full season in charge last year. Toro Aniki had been at the helm when Kawasaki Frontale won 4 of the previous 5. Won't be too many secrets, you wouldn't imagine, in how the teams will play, in their knowledge of each other today. Frontale in their change colours, all in the white. They will play from right to left as we look at it in this first half. Tricolor get the game underway. Well, it is always one of the standout occasions of the J1 season. The context might be a little bit different to usual this time in terms of the table. When these Kanagawa rivals get together, the implications are on a national scale. Yokohama F Marinos taking this to Kawasaki Frontale right from the start. These two have been the pre-eminent forces in Japanese football of late. Any meeting between them carries that extra bit of emphasis. The early stages of this one in this fevered atmosphere at Nissan Stadium will tell us much, maybe, about how the game is going to go. All Brazilian front 4 for F Marinos today, with the addition of Marcos Jr. into the starting lineup. Albert has been the form player with 3 goals in his last 4 games, and Anderson Lopez, of course, has had a wonderful season. Joint top scorer with 11 goals last year in taking the title. He's already got 15 so far this season, 8 of those in his last 6 league matches. That's Frontale's first attack of note. Put out by Fujita in midfield. We'll come back at those in blue. Oh, not quite. Shimmery grateful to be able to come and gather, and the goalkeeper releases it quickly and long. Try and turn defence into attack. Jan Matthias just unable to make it stick. Hectic start to the game, as it was always going to be, and there is Yenega for Kawasaki Frontale. Taking on Nagato. Zhao Schmidt. To try and pick out in the penalty area. Elbeck. Maybe the counter. Jan Matthias was his target. Borazato, the captain of Kawasaki, was able to get there first. He's taken over the armband of late as the left back. Making an 8th straight start of his 15th season at Clark. Flag up to the frustration of Yenica over there. He's got a bit to say about it. It's the opening day of the season when they last met at Todoroki. That Friday night curtain raiser. Marinos beginning the defence of their title with a 2-1 win. Really did set the tone for the season. Here they come again. Elbert teeing one up and getting plenty behind that. Kami Fukumoto was also right behind it and able to make the save. An early scare inside the opening 3 minutes. Borderline offside in the build-up. Stinging strike certainly from Elbert, and a corner to come for the champions. Nagato waiting patiently to take it. Free with a little bit of business to attend to first in the penalty area. Now here it will come from Nagato. Charles Schmidt who got his head to it. Frontale able to clear and potentially able to counter. Didn't quite work as intended for Wakazaka. Yamateus. No surprise at all to see the intensity with which the game has begun. Something demanded really from those in the stands. Tanabe picking up the pieces in midfield, trying to link with Fujita, who has it here. Kida, who's missed the last couple of matches, is back on the bench and available today, having started that Emperor's Cup defeat on Wednesday night. The flick was by Marcos Junior, and it's returned towards him. Schmidt in the way, reaching it just ahead of Anderson Lopez. This is Elbert. So it's just into a little bit of space there, and we'll have to settle for the corner, because the door was shut in time pretty quickly. Positive start from the tricolour. It goes again from the corner. It was a bit more threatening this time, nobody quite able to react to it. Danger kept alive by Kamishima, who was up from the back. Seko. Goalkeeper Kami Fukumoto, only two of Frontale's starting lineup also played in the cup in midweek. Seko and Miyashiro, both goal scorers in that victory against Mito Hollyhock. Took them through to round 4, the last 16 of the competition. Marinos left to focus on their title challenge after exiting that competition. With a number of surprise results in the week. Yenica, turned 37 recently, but still so important as a creative outlet for Frontale. He's trying to find the run of Yamada, the flag went up. Yamada amongst the goals recently, started and scored against Yokohama's other side, Yokohama FC last week. That was a comfortable 3-0 victory for Kawasaki Frontale. Expecting it to be much tougher against the other team from the neighbouring city. Won their home games last season. Frontale took 4 points off F Marinos in 2021, claiming the title. They've lost actually only 2 of the club's last 7 meetings, winning 4 of them. Look for the run here of Miyashiro, kept in by Noborizato. Yamateus in field. This is with Tanabe. They've lost it. Seko got a foot in. Yenica is looking for Miyashiro. Still the danger. Wakazaka couldn't get his shot away, but maintains possession. Finds Akira Yenaga. Zhao Schmidt, F Marinos with everybody back behind the ball. Good little period this for Frontale, but in maintaining possession, they have been forced back into their own half. Seko has been at the heart of it. Shot out and returned by Nagato. Seko once more. For Yokohama FC, Tatsuki Seko. The side that they beat last week, their recent form has been improving. 3 of the last 5 in the league, 6 of the last 10. They have it here again with Yenaga. It's a clever disguised ball for Wakazaka. Hit a hand in there was Yamada, who was an intended target for it. They will have to settle for the corner. Started from that excellent ball, switching the play from Zhao Schmidt. Here comes the corner into a congested penalty area. Just over the head of Takai, the teenage centre-back who'd ventured forward for it. Miyashiro, top scorer this season. Threateningly, it might come for Miyashiro yet to try and return it. Pretty comfortable, though, for Ishimori in goal. Become the first-choice goalkeeper for F Marinos, on loan for the season from Gampo Osaka. Do like to try and play out from the back. It's not without its risk at times. Well, here is space for Elbert. He's got a couple in support. He's unselfish, and it should have been the opening goal. Jan Matthäus can barely believe that it wasn't. Oh, what a chance. Elbert looked like he'd done everything right in the build-up, and all Jan Matthäus had to do was apply the finishing touch in front of goal. Couldn't squeeze it in. Well, he had time to set his sights there to steady himself, and the reaction both of player and coach tells you the full extent of the story, really. What remains to be seen is just how costly that miss might prove in the context of this contest. We shall see on that score. He started the season as a regular off the bench, Jan Matthäus, but he has been a starter now in the last 11 matches, convincing Kevin Muscat of his place in the team. Scorer of 4 goals already this season in the league. It's 3 more than he managed last season. Should have added to his tally here. F Marinos yet might with Anderson Lopez. Here's the one that usually does provide the goals. Down goes Elbert. Nothing for him at the end of that. It's the first major moment of the match. That was from Jan Matthäus. Joined almost a year ago, the former Palmeiras player. In the last few months as he won that regular starting role, during his first 12 months at the club. Succeeded by Eduardo. A couple of titles during his time with Frontale. Speaking about the importance of this game in the build-up, well placed to judge it. Here's Miyashiro. Hasn't been dealt with. Yenaga unorthodox, as was the finish. The flag is up, though, against Yamada. And the celebrations never even got started. Well, he reacted wonderfully, but he did so from an offside position. I think it was fairly clear-cut. There was an offside there in the build-up against Miyashiro. That's why it's not going to count. Yamada clearly on. And he stuck it away. check will not take too long here, though. A little finish from him, wasn't it? But ultimately academic. There's Yamateas. There's a player, Yamada, that they have really high hopes for in Kawasaki. First season out of university. Has of late forced his way into the starting lineup. Schmidt, away by Matsupara, and as far as Naborizato. The MVP at the intercollegiate finals on the first day of the year, Shin Yamada, before joining up with Kawasaki Frontale. Toin University, who he represented, took that particular title. He has made an impressive step up into J-League action this year. Had big injuries in those positions, which has perhaps afforded him more of a chance than he might have had. Here's Elper, he might get a chance to get the shot away. He needs no second invitation, does he, in those sort of situations? Fairly comfortably fielded this time by Kami Fukumoto, but Elper looks in the mood. Goal scorer when they last met on the opening day of the season. Proved effectively to be the winning goal that day, put them 2-0 up just before half-time. They ended up winning it by 2-1. This meeting here at the start of last season finished 4-2 to F Marinos. Been in free scoring form again this season, but they have defensive work to do. Yenager is on the move, a couple in support, Yamada stretching. Nearly, but not quite. All he could do to get his toe to that. Couldn't quite control it as a result. He's putting himself into some very promising positions. Just inside his own half when that ball was played was Akihiro Yenager, who was away quickly. Looking to make it 2 goals in 2 games. It's he who opened the scoring about this stage of the game, actually, a week ago against Yokohama FC. But it's F Marinos advancing here. Wasteful from Watanabe. There was a cross trying to make something of it. Yamane dealt with the danger. The J-League best 11 last season, Yamane, ever-present member of this Frontale side this season. He went to the World Cup with Japan in Qatar at the end of last year. He hasn't featured for his country since then. Kamijima. Get the decision here. Scorer of a career best 12 goals last year. Just the 2 so far this for Akihiro Yenager. Despite the fact that he too, at the age of 37, has started every league game all season. They are 1 match behind the rest, Frontale, because of the postponement recently of their game at Vissel Kobe due to a typhoon. That will be replayed next week. Kobe week today, play catch-up with the rest. Matchweek 21 this weekend, the last before the J1 summer break. F Marinos are going to be pretty busy during that break, with friendlies to come against Celtic and Manchester City over the next week or so. When the European clubs are in Japan as part of their pre-season preparations. Won back well that by Fujita. Borizato able to clear, not necessarily convincingly, but it worked out effectively. And Seko can bring it clear. Wakazaka taking over, and he's got a bit of room in which to work in here, invited forward really before j.LEAGUE takes over. Neatly done. Again, the attempt at the improvised finish from Yamada, who has been central to the early story. Didn't quite come up with a finish this time. A little ball into his feet from Yamane. F Marinos with twice as many shots so far, but it is the visitors who have edged the possession. Rather more than edged it, actually, through this stage of the game. Not too many teams do that coming here. Marinos part of the City football group. You know how they like to play with the ball. Despite the fact that they are top of the table, they have been on a fine run of form. They've not necessarily been at their best of late. But here is Jan Mateus, and he's got plenty of space. He has support as well. But Elbert's attempted finish is thwarted by Kami Fukumoto. Wasn't quite the finish that Elbert was looking for. Chances keep coming, though, for the champions. Brazilian front four are creating plenty of opportunities for Kevin Muscat's side. As yet, they've not been able to finish them off. In a game with fine margins like this one, it could be costly come the conclusion. And Supra looking for options. Sixth straight start for the regular right back. Seko finds himself outnumbered in there. Support provided by Zhao Schmidt. Quickly plays that crossfield ball. We've seen that on a couple of occasions at least already. Now j.LEAGUE looking for Miyashiro, who takes it down neatly. Does have support. It's always travelling wide, the shot from Seko. As I mentioned, was on target in the cup win in midweek, but has just the one league goal to his name this season. His primary duties are defensive ones, really, in midfield. There's another clear sight of goal for F Marinos, this time for Elbert. Not enough conviction in the shot. 7 goals for his league season so far, is just one fewer than he managed in the whole of last year. Again was the target for a side who have scored 44 times already this season through their first 20 games. It's 3 more than any other club in the division. Remarkably, it's 20 goals more than Frontale have managed so far this season. It's one of the standout statistics in comparing the campaigns that the clubs have had so far. Fujita forward. Zato, time to assess his options. Takai, having a big breakthrough season since 8th start in J1, the 18-year-old. Was away in Argentina at the Under-20 World Cup with Japan earlier in the summer. This will hold up nicely for j.LEAGUE. He too has time, he too had support in the middle. Goalkeeper needed to get something on it, unorthodox, but ultimately effective from Ishimori. Because Miyashiro was lurking. He kept the 3 clean sheets all season, Ishimori, in the champions' goal. Just being asked to wait here by referee Almari. Zato with the throw down the line for Seko. Pretty much everybody inside the F Marinos half. But still they pick a way through here, do Frontale. Wakazaka, for a moment, must have thought it was going to open up for him. Again, the flag ultimately is up. There's a deflection on the shot anyway from Wakazaka, but ultimately that now is academic. Who has made the J1 best 11 in each of the last 2 seasons. Again, it's risky, but again, composure kept by those in blue. As Eduardo brings it clear. Yamateas, neatly done. Matsubara, forward from full-back, and has turned back into trouble, really. So many nearly moments in this opening quarter of the game. Kamishima, new signing for this season from Kashiwa Reysol. It's Fujita. Yamateas taking on Noborizato, and he is away from him, and it's wide. And it didn't quite fall favourably for Anderson Lopez in the middle either. There's another of those nearly moments I was mentioning. Did really well to trick his way through. Again, brilliant in the build-up, but not enough at the end of it. And just beyond the midway point of this first half, we will have the drinks break. Hearing this week from J.League that these will be mandatory until the end of August, regardless of the temperatures, unless both clubs decide to waive them. And that's never likely to be the case in the sticky conditions tonight. Temperature at kickoff still around about 29 degrees Celsius. And it offers a little period of reflection as well from the opening quarter of the game, where F Marinos have created the better chances. Frontale have had the ball in the net through Yamada, but that was never going to count because of an offside in the build-up. Toru Aniki's team have had the greatest share of the possession, though. 55% of it. Twice as many shots from F Marinos, and 5 of those 6 shots on target. Though the vast majority haven't really troubled Kami Fukumoto in the Frontale goal. That will be the big frustration for Kevin Muscat so far. Encouraged by the chances created, but frustrated by the lack of a finish. Job he did in taking them to the title last year, and they are very much on course to win it again under Muscat. There's the replacement, of course, for Ange Postecoglou, who he previously served as an assistant at Melbourne Victory in the Australian national team. And the upcoming friendly on Wednesday was arranged. The intention was that he would be facing Postecoglou and Celtic. Of course, he switched to Spurs earlier in the summer, has thwarted that particular reunion, although there will still be plenty of familiar faces in that Celtic squad that come here to Nissan Stadium in the week, including Tomoki Iwata, the reigning J-League Player of the Year, who joined Celtic on loan at the end of that year, and just yesterday was confirmed as having signed for them on a permanent basis. There's always that obligation to buy clause in the contract, which has now been activated. So play back underway with the corner to come. Nagato sizing it up. Decent delivery as well. Kami Fukumoto did well to get a glove on it. Not as far as Matsubara. Eduardo, flick didn't quite come off as intended. Back though, providing the cover. Now Matsubara to switch the play. Marcus Jr. looking to link with Albert. He went down heavily and gets the free kick against his compatriot, Zhao Schmidt. Don't hang around in taking it, Ken Matsubara. Juan Mateus. He's starting to address that possession statistic a bit, F Marinos, seeing more of the ball now in the last few minutes. Eduardo is adept at carrying the ball forward from the back. He's now out of position as a result of that. So Elbert back covering, doing his defensive duties, just halts the progress of J.LEAGUE. Seko. It's Naborazato, the furthest forward from full-back. A bit too much of that to Fujita. The turn was briefly stopped by Wakazaka. And Marcos Jr. running into trouble and frustrated. Not been a regular, as I mentioned, Marcos Jr. this season. He was the 15-goal top scorer when they took the title from Frontale back in 2019. And his 5th year, the former Fluminense player. Earlier foul, I think, on Anderson Lopez that it was given against João Schmidt. And for that, he goes into the book. Something of a hazard of the position that he plays, perhaps. Very much has those defensive responsibilities in this side. First net taken by referee Almari today. Quiet for Marcos Jr. Bounce of the ball just seemed to deceive him. Well, nothing between them through the opening half an hour of the game. Marinos might feel that should have been a different story. And a couple of very presentable opportunities that they have created. Haven't lost here at home all season in J1. They're one of only 2 teams, along with Nagoya Grampus, to remain undefeated in front of their home fans. Fans here looking for Marcos Jr., but it's cut out by Takai. As far as Nagato, though. Home form has been excellent for F Marinos. 25 goals in front of their own fans in J1 this year is 7 more than any other side has scored at home in this league. Frontale, in fact, one of only 2 teams, along with Vissel Kobe, to have conceded fewer home goals than F Marinos. Space for Seko to try and surge into, but he showed too much of it to Kamishima. Now Wakazaka working it wider. J.LEAGUE. Suto Wakazaka. Here is Yamane. He's like to drift in field from that right back position. That's where he picks up possession once again. And the Naborazato on the other side. They do look a threat when they get themselves in these sort of situations. They have plenty of movement in advanced areas. Yamada, one of those providing plenty of that. From the stands has been unrelenting, as you would expect on an occasion such as this. Kevin Muscat made the point in his pre-match interview. This game needs that little bit more. It will certainly affect the entire weekend of those in attendance. Could help shape the season, of course. Marinos in what looks to be a 4-team title race. Frontale still harbour hopes of climbing up back towards the Champions League qualification positions. I think there's a realistic conclusion now to be made that they are not going to challenge for the title again. Despite that being very much the stated aim at the start of the season, just ahead of that opening night when these two clubs went toe-to-toe. Toru Aniki had insisted, despite the changes to the squad that followed last season's runners-up finish, their intention was very much to get their title back. They've not really at any stage got close. Lopez the target. They come here for Jan Mateus, it does. Elber. Down goes Anderson. Lopez arriving beyond him was Marcos Jr., who didn't quite have the angle from there. So many options in attack again. Once more in what is becoming a frustrating first half story for the Tricolor. There is no end product. Frequency at which they are creating those chances, though, will certainly be a concern for Toru Aniki and his team. Living dangerously at times, those from Kawasaki. And went Watanabe. First a look in the referee's direction. Has featured in every league game for F Marinos. He has started all but one of them this season, Kota Watanabe. Usually the captain Kida that he's formed that partnership with in midfield. Fujita forcing his way in the last few games. Frontale almost forcing their way beyond Fujita there. They still have it with Miyashiro, not for long. And Mateus comes clear. A long way out of his area. Fukumoto taking evasive action. Job done. Ultimately, he was beaten in not dissimilar circumstances a couple of games ago from the halfway line in the 1-1 draw at Orowa Reds. Sekone's spectacular strike. Strong challenge from Eduardo. Yenica. It's just cutting up in places. That's becoming more noticeable as the game has gone on. Wonderful setting at Nissan Stadium. It holds over 72,000. Venue, of course, for the World Cup final of 2002. It's the biggest stadium in Japan until the new national stadium reopened in Tokyo. First space here for Matsubara to size up the cross. It's evaded everybody in the middle, though. There were plenty trying to get on the end of it. Talking of the National Stadium in Tokyo, that's where Kevin Muscat's men will be a week tomorrow to meet Manchester City in that friendly game, the J.League World Challenge. Just another member of the City football group. Hold around about a 20% stake. F Marinos, Nissan with the rest. Frontale have European opposition to come. Also at the National Stadium, they will face Bayern Munich in 2 weeks' time. Plenty to think about before then, though. Nothing separating these two today. Despite the fact there is 15 points uncharacteristically between them in the table this year. The season just beyond its halfway point. Seko. Really done by Wakazaka. Yenica. had to try and pick out. It was super away. And again. So although it's comfortably cut out and will come back at F Marinos as a result of that. They're playing it wider and getting it back here from Yenaga. Very little room in which to work, but they didn't necessarily need it. Just back across by Wakazaka, and it could have gone anywhere as it hit Eduardo. Corner kick the outcome for Frontale. Do look adept at making the most of what little space that there is. Dangerous in tight spots, it would appear. Dangerous will they be from set pieces? Let's have a look from this one. Just not everybody initially. Zhao Schmidt was able to take the touch, try and tee up the shot, which when it came was harmlessly wide of the target from Yamane, who can be a threat in front of goal for Toru Aniki and his team, but has just the one so far this season in the 4-3 victory at Concert, the first day of April. Nagato, he's going to strike it. Safely dealt with again by Kami Fukumoto, who has come straight back into the side, having been dropped to the bench last week against Yokohama FC. The fact that Jung is not in the squad today suggests that he is unavailable. Fukumoto did come back in, but that was to be expected in the cup victory on that Wednesday. Made a couple of high-profile errors in previous league games, which cost him a run of 10 straight starts when he was back on the bench a week ago. Jung had started the season as the first choice. The form of his own had cost the South Korean his spot. Yamateus, Watanabe, Matsubara. The Tricolor patient in possession, trying to pick a way through. And for the final 5 of the first half. Marcos Jr., there's Yamateus. Now Elper, the Brazilians combine, taking on Yamane. He stood his ground. Clearance was by Wakazaka. There's a perception, though, that there is much more to come from both of these sides in the second half of the season, in terms of finding their best, most fluent form. Despite the fact that results for each of them have picked up of late, particularly, of course, for the table toppers. Been on an excellent run until that draw at Nagoya Grampus last week. Jan Mateus has it here, sizing things up. Had won 6 in a row before that draw. They might be in behind once more. It's cut back behind both Anderson Lopez and Marcos Jr. Yamane coming under pressure. Probably all he could do in the circumstances was to find touch with that. It's not been precise enough when they've got in that final part of the pitch. Seko. Zhao Schmidt. Played his regular starting role since April, really. It was something of a surprise to see him as a more peripheral figure in the opening couple of months of the season. Really important on both sides of the ball for them. And he is again. Experienced Brazilian. He's in his 3rd season at the club. He had a couple of years with Nagoya Grampus before that. He has started 11 of the last 12 league matches now. After the one that sets the tempo. Also important in winning the ball back in midfield. Fujita forward, it's not a bad ball at all. Anderson Lopez trying to make something of it, trying to keep his feet. It's successful in the latter, rather less so the former. We'll come again here with Watanabe. Marcos Jr. back to Elber. Mateus keep the danger alive. And Supera. Fujita is a goal scorer against Nagoya Grampus 7 days ago, in which they trailed and led and had to settle for a point. Still in search of the breakthrough here. Fujita forward. Marcus Jr. was looking for Jan Mateus. He finds him, but not quite where he wanted to find him. And Supera. This is more like what we're used to seeing from F Marinos in the way that they're manipulating the ball, dominating possession. Marcos Jr. There's Jan. Fujita. Frontale having to work really hard without it just at the moment, but they are doing so with discipline and diligence in keeping their defensive shape. Ensuring that F Marinos aren't really going anywhere with it just yet. And ultimately winning it back after that prolonged passage of possession play. Borisato, it will fall favourably for Seko. He's able to assess his options whilst on the move here. Towards Yamada, his intention to return it didn't give Seko anywhere near as much space, and Watanabe comes clear. Last minute of the half. A bit to add on because of the drinks break. That's Supera. Mateus. Well, they were 2 up before half-time when they met on the opening night of the season, where F Marinos been as clinical this evening. That's been the big difference, really, between then and now. Missing Nishimura, who was a goal scorer that day, out through injury this evening. Came off at half-time last week. To add on, now that we've reached the 45-minute mark, confirmation from the fourth official. And Mateus taking over. Far too close, though, to Kami Fukumoto. It's straight into the goalkeeper's arms. He hasn't really had the service yet, has he, Anderson Lopez? The champions' chances have fallen elsewhere in this first half. Relatively comfortable return to the spotlight and the starting lineup for Naoto Kami Fukumoto, thus far anyway, for which he will be grateful. Anderson Lopez trying to force it through towards Jan. That Supera will help it on in that direction, but the whistle had gone. Doing so, he was hurt in the process. It was Ken Matsupara. Collision, I think, with Naborizato, who is offering up the hand of apology here. Well, painful one. Both only had eyes for the ball. Both were equally entitled to challenge for it. And it is Matsupara who clearly came off the worst in that collision, which will only extend this first half a little further. Kevin Muscat will have plenty to say to his men when he gets them into the dressing room at half-time, I'm sure. Some encouraging signs, certainly, but still looking for that end product. It's been the story of the first half, and it is applicable to an extent to both clubs. A bit of concern first over the possible continuation of the game for Matsupara, as there always is after an injury of this nature. Did look quite a hefty blow, that one that he took. run in the Frontale side is the fullback Borazato. So far this season, it hasn't always been the case during his 15 years with the first team. A wonderful servant he has been down those years. It's a little more promising, doesn't it, for Matsupara? And if there is any doubt during the half-time interval, then we won't see him for the second half, I'm sure. A little bit more for Kevin Muscat to ponder. They will resume with a free kick in a promising position for Yokohama F Marinos. It will be one of the last chances of the first half, which continues now at the referee's discretion because of the stoppage in stoppage time. And Mateus lining up the free kick. He's had plenty of time to do so. Swings it in dangerously, and the goalkeeper was able to hold it as he had to. Kind of sums up the story for Anderson Lopez and F Marinos in this first 45. Got his head to it. The top scorer in between the two defenders that sandwiched him. But didn't test Kami Fukumoto with it. He hasn't had too many chances to do that. Super want to keep an eye on. I'm sure they'll be doing that during half-time, as I mentioned. Signs do look promising for him. Will be the last action of the first half, and there is nothing between the teams. The better chances have come the way of the champions, but they've not been able to capitalise upon them. And Frontale, who saw plenty of the ball in the early stages of the game, had their moments as well. They may be slightly more satisfied with the current scoreline. Both sides with work to do, and each will feel that this game could still be there for the winning. And it is beautifully balanced at the break. Really difficult to call. Little between them. There might be 15 points between them in the table, but you suspected it would be much closer on the field today. And it has certainly proved that way in the first 45. Half-time at Nissan Stadium. Yokohama F Marinos 0, Kawasaki Frontale 0. So welcome back. Here come Yokohama F Marinos for the start of the second half. Pondering on what might have been, maybe, after a first 45 in which they created 2 or 3 very promising openings without being able to make the breakthrough. It's the team whose title they took last season, and although Frontale have fallen short of challenging again this year, they have been the champions' equals for much of this match so far. Moments of their own, certainly, particularly for Shin Yamada, who did have the ball in the net in that first half, only for the offside flag to correctly go up. Infringement wasn't his, it happened earlier in the move. The finish that followed was impressive, but counted for little. Now we are seeing a change, and no surprise maybe that Matsuura hasn't re-emerged, given the head injury that he suffered at the end of that first half. Shinosuke Tanaka is his replacement. A little bit of a reshuffle required then from the champions. Tanaka has been a regular starter this season. In fact, it is only the 4th game that he hasn't begun in the 11, and he has featured in every league match this season. Work continues, but it's not a change you suspect that they would want to have had to make at that juncture. Zato was the other player involved in that collision with Matsuura right at the end of the half. But he was okay. Yeah, Marinos at right back, who did try to play on for the couple of minutes of the half that remained, was unable to take any further part. And it appears to be the only change at the interval. Frontale squad stretched by injuries really throughout the course of the campaign. Injuries to key players as well. Gamiao and Yukobayashi both missed the start of the season, and no sooner had they returned to fitness than they were each injured again and currently sidelined. GCL's missed the last 17 matches now with a knee injury. Sinio missing as well. He was a key player for them last season. The returns could strengthen this side in the second half of the season. Let's see what the second half of the game has in store. So it is Kawasaki Frontale to get the game back underway. A little between them in the first 45. For that, the visiting team will be thankful and take encouragement and look to build on a possible platform that they've provided for themselves. Even if the longer that half went on, the more authority maybe that F Marinos started to assert over the game. Certainly saw more of the ball. Kawasaki Frontale had dominated possession in the early stages. Started at such intensity, was always likely in the hot and humid conditions that wouldn't necessarily be sustained throughout the entirety of the half. Ready to go again here. Important for Frontale if they are to continue climbing back towards where they want to be, up into the top half of the table at kick-off. We have to go back to 2015 for the last time that they finished outside the top 4 in J1. So 4 of the last 6 league titles. F Marinos taking the other 2, the defending champions. Might be in here, but for the smart reactions of Kami Fukumoto, then Marcus Jr. might have been. Almost was. So with Shimori at the other end, and he hasn't had too much to do in the F Marinos goal thus far. Nagato. This came Eduardo. Had an important role in the heart of the F Marinos defence. He was a little too strong for Yenica on that occasion. He's come off second best as a result. 3-time J-League champion Eduardo, 2 of those were with Frontale. Never a regular for them beyond his first season, really, which was on loan from Metropolitano back in Brazil. In 2016, it was with Frontale that he started his career in Japanese football. Sagan Tosu as well, now in his second season at F Marinos. Compromising in the challenge, as we've just seen. Yeager certainly felt the effects of it. He's okay to continue. Fujita. Only his sixth start of the campaign, used more frequently off the bench. Now Jan Mathias. Going through the gears very swiftly, still has it here. Now Marcos Junior trying to tee up the shot. Wasn't quite on, really, for Watanabe. And in that respect, it's picked up, hasn't it, in a familiar pattern from which the first half left off. Plenty to admire about the build-up from Yokohama F Marinos. Still no finishing touch yet. A recurring theme, certainly. It hasn't been the case throughout this campaign, in which they are the division's top scorers. And have developed something of a reputation, really, for being problem solvers on the pitch. They've not necessarily needed the involvement of the coach to find a way during games. And at times they've been below their best. Elbert swings in the cross here. Players have the tactical intelligence to be able to respond to different situations, different approaches from the opposition. Plenty of evidence of that in the first half of this year. But here come Frontale. Yashiro struggled to get into the game, but he's in the thick of things just at the moment. Anderson Lopez appealing for a free kick, which was not forthcoming. He felt he was being held back there and trying to hold on to the ball. Just unable to do that. Borazzato. Secco. Back to the captain, the Borazzato. And again, looking for Miyashiro. Oh, big chance. And he just scuffed the shot. Never troubling the target. They're trying to bring it clear. It was something of a snapshot. Had to take it first time, did Yamada. Wasn't really able to react quickly enough to the opportunity. Yeager slipped beautifully into his path. Just hesitated whilst he assessed those options in the middle. Marcos Junior nipped away from him by Schmidt, but only into the path of Elbert. Nobody can really hold on to it for any prolonged period right now. Here's Fujita. Jan Mathias. That big miss early in the first half, which is continuing to look costly as it stands. Difficult start to the season, Frontale. They've been trying to play catch-up ever since. Hasn't quite happened yet. Anderson Lopez applying the pressure. Coolly done, wasn't it, by Kami Fukumoto? Now options here for those in white. Yamada was trying to hold his run to stay onside. Has it now? Finds Yeager. Flips it in threateningly. Yamada challenging for it against Eduardo, who did just enough under pressure. Fujita gets ahead to it. Favoured then by the bounce of the ball back into his path. Run back well by Secco. It's all going on. Challenges flying in. Yeager. Just trying to slow it down. Very deliberate at the moment from Frontale. Yeager. He's everywhere. Secco. Not far behind him. won 2 of their first 9 league matches this season, Kawasaki Frontale, which is why they're in the position that they find themselves. They have won 6 of the last 10. Quite enough evidence yet to confirm turning a corner, but certainly enough to suggest that they are heading in that direction. A win here would make a world of difference. Wakazaka. Back into traffic, really. Yamada's had to drop deep. Schau Schmidt. Jäniger. It's always an option, isn't he? Miyashiro has to chase after it. Isn't where he wanted it, but he will reach it belatedly. Schmidt's covered good ground as well to join up with the attack now. Jäniger. Good spell this from Frontale. Can they find the finish? Flashed in towards the goalkeeper. Nishimura was called into action. Haven't said that very frequently. He was equal to it. Jäniger tries to win it back. Fujita in the way. And Marcos Jr. to stride clear with intent for F Marinos. Elber. Anderson Lopez trying to get back on side ahead of him, which is why he delayed the pass. But he has found Jan with it now. He's able to bring it down. Fujita. In White had got back in position defensively, though. That reduced the odds of that ball being able to reach its intended target, who was Anderson Lopez. Continues to operate really on the fringes of this game. Yamada's come wider. So beautifully balanced, this, isn't it? Really wouldn't like to call which way it might go at this precise moment, anyway. Foul was on Marcos Jr. The free kick is Marinos's. Tanabe. Might not be too long before we see the club captain Kida called for from the bench. Missing the last couple of matches. Been part of the first team squad for over a decade now. Anderson Lopez receives it to feet, tried to switch it wider for Jan Mateus, but he telegraphed the pass somewhat and it wasn't hit with the requisite accuracy anyway. Just looking at other names who might be called for from the bench to try and inject that spark in attack. Mizunuma has plenty of assists this season. Worth a mention as well for the fit again Ryo Miyachi, once of Arsenal. He's come on in 5 of the last 6 games after returning to fitness that sidelined him for the first part of the season. He is on the bench today. Now Jäniger for Frontale, squaring up to Nagato. And he's done well to get away from him. Still with Jäniger. And the finish is not provided by Seko, who was quickly closed down. And potentially partly because of that, snatched at the shot somewhat. Goal against Mito Hollyhock in the Emperor's Cup in midweek was his 3rd in the cup competitions this season, cup in the League Cup as well. So far just the 1 to his name in J1 this year, and that remains the case after this. He's got underneath the shot. But there is a growing belief amongst the travelling contingent, I'm sure, that there's a potential win in this for Frontale. And right on cue, Kida and Miyachi, I just mentioned a moment ago, are both called for. Jan Mateus and Joel Fujita are replaced as Kevin Muscat makes a double change. One substitution, the introduction of Tanaka at half-time, was forced upon him. Now he is seeking to switch things up and inject some extra urgency maybe into his side, some extra creativity. What they've been missing is the finish. Archie yet to start a game this year. Former San Pauli player. He was brought in 3 seasons ago. Will provide that slightly different option maybe. Kida coming back will certainly add experience and composure in midfield. Watanabe freed up a little bit maybe by Kida's arrival. The cross claimed by Kami Fukumoto pretty comfortably, very cleanly. Teams taking it in turns to attack as we head towards the hour mark. Borizato. Also taking it in turns to have little spells in possession. One ended by the referee's whistle. First contribution really from Kida, who has taken over the captain's armband. Through the Youth Rex back in 2007, part of the first team setup since 2012, and a double change for F Marinos is followed by a double change from Kawasaki Frontale. Toru Aniki responding in kind. Shin Yamada had a really strong start to the game. His evening will end here on the hour. Tatsuki Seka is coming off as well in midfield. So Dayatono and Kento Teshibanada. He started the season as the skipper, has lost form somewhat and lost his place in the team as a result of that. During a season which for him started with a goal late in the game against F Marinos on opening night. It came too late to salvage anything for them that day, but his introduction to the action here comes at a stage where it is very much all still to play for. It's his only goal of the season. He is more of a defensive-minded midfield player. Look at where the goalkeeper is here. Referee steps in anyway, because the offside flag was up. Sweeper keepers, a familiar theme in J-League. The way that Kami Fukumoto plays at the other end, it has cost him at times recently. And Shimori doing something similar for F Marinos at the moment. Although his clearance that time was a little hurried and straight out of play. Kida, having done well to win it. Elbert has gone over to that right-hand side now. MEIJI taking up his position on the left since the change. That double switch by each team, just taking a little while maybe to settle the game down again. So when teams adjust to the change in personnel. Junior wider. Here is MEIJI to create something straight away. Very useful option to have fit again at this stage of the season for Yokohama F Marinos. Player of proven pedigree. 2010 when he started his professional career with Arsenal after a successful trial in North London. One substitute appearance for them in the Premier League competition, in which he also represented Bolton and Wigan. The Wigan side actually that reached and won an FA Cup final in 2013. out with a cruciate ligament injury until his recent return. This is Albert. Couple in the middle. Goalkeeper got a glove on it, turned it away, as it turned out, from Anderson Lopez. Did Kami Fukumoto. They're having a bit of choice in switching flanks. Tanape. Marcus Jr. There is MEIJI. He's got time just to luck up. Opted against the cross. Wants Marcus Jr. instead with Tanape. Struck by Hatanaka. With intent, with power, but not with accuracy. This team still toiling once they get to the final third. Are Muscat's men. Coming up to a century of games in charge. Having signed a new contract to stay ahead of this season. 19 years he had as a professional. The English-born, former Australian international of Maltese descent, really enhancing his coaching career in Japan. Hatanaka. Slotted into the heart of that defence since his half-time introduction. Anderson Lopez did well to hold off a couple of challenges. Was won back by Yenica though. Wasn't alert to it being returned to him, and instead it will open up here for F Marinos. How about that for a finish? And it's in. It's over the line, but I don't think it's going to count. Oh, huge moment. And Anderson Lopez is denied what would have been such a memorable goal by that little dink over the keeper. But ultimately, it doesn't count. Let's have a look at how close this was. When the ball is played, he was just offside, I think. Marcos Jr. into his path. Lovely finish. Spin on the ball, clearly tuck it over before Kami Fukumoto was able to get back and clear it. That's not the issue, it's the offside that has cost him. So both teams have had the ball over the line, and neither count because of offside. On both the correct calls. It was a close one, it was a little difficult to detect initially, and the officials got it spot on. Shows, though, that if Anderson Lopez does get a chance, and despite the fact his team have created plenty, he hasn't really been on the end of the clear-cut openings today. That he will more than likely make the most of it if that service does come his way. Tanape will get it back again here. Nagato. Marcos Jr. Good ball into space, which MEIJI will reach and delivers on the run first time. Was well defended, and now the flag's gone up again on that far side. Playing a very high line, Kawasaki Frontale at times. So far, they've just operated really on the right side of that line in terms of the offside decisions that have been given in their favour. So Miyashiro replaced by Segawa for the closing quarter of the game. Miyashiro with 5 goals this season, more than anybody else in the Frontale team, a team that uncharacteristically really have struggled for goals, scoring 20 fewer, remember, than F Marinos this year. Miyashiro's opportunities to add to that tally have been limited today, so it's not a huge surprise that he has been replaced. It's certainly not a surprise to see Segawa step off the bench. He does so today for the 14th time this season. One of the go-to guys off the bench for Toru Aniki, despite the fact he is yet to start a league game this year. Former Shonan Pelmare player in his first season at the club. Change happening as we go into the drinks break at the midway point of the second half. And I do think that conditions have played a bit of a part in what we've seen tonight. Always likely to be the case, given the heat and particularly the humidity. Marinos now do just have the edge overall in terms of possession. They certainly have the edge in terms of shots on target. 7-2 in favour of the champions through the opening 3 quarters of the contest. And yet, he will feel his team could still snatch this. How certainly will he. Can Muscat's men go 6 points clear of Vissel Kobe, although it is worth pointing out that they would have played 2 matches more. So in action tomorrow, and they have that rearranged game to come against Frontale, remember, next week. Today, those 2 will go toe-to-toe. Big implications on the title race as well. But if Frontale are to harbour hopes of qualifying for next season's Champions League, they certainly need to go on a run that we know, judging by recent history, they are capable of going on. It'll take something spectacular, though, in the second half of the season to return them to the upper echelons of the table. Will be in Champions League action, courtesy of last season's runners-up finish. The new Champions League campaign gets underway in the autumn. So, of course, will F Marinos. Yashiro winning it. Ball in by Watanabe towards Anderson Lopez. Wasn't given the room in which to work. Hiroshima involved in that continental competition after finishing 3rd last year, and of course Urawa Reds won it this season, so they will be in the playoff round. And Vamphore Kofu, the surprise winners of last season's Emperor's Cup as a J2 team, also qualified as a result. Fixture list will get a little more congested for these 2 teams later in the year. Marinos no longer have those Emperor's Cup commitments after that surprise midweek exit. Just the fact that they lost to the J2 leaders, it was the nature in which they were beaten, really, by 4 goals to 1. They only got the 1 6 minutes from the end. It's technically a home game, although they did play it away, actually, at Nashida. That started that game, though, only Marcus Jr. also began today. Excellent ball slipped through, all of a sudden it's a big chance. He's around the goalkeeper, clearly caught. And there is the referee's decision as he points to the spot. It's a yellow card. First real involvement since he came off the bench for Daya Tono, who was in on goal and brought down by Jun Ishimori, who is spared the sending off, but he will have a penalty to face. Oh, this is a huge moment. Tried to pull out, I think, Ishimori, when he realised he wasn't going to get there, but by then it was too late. He pulled the arm away. Was the contact actually with the trailing leg, maybe? Referee had a really good view of it. VAR checking it just to make sure it was the correct conclusion, but I don't think there's too much by way of a dispute amongst the officials here. Confirmation of the card for the keeper, who will face this penalty kick. Yokohama F Marinos, the reigning champions, unbeaten at home this season in defence of their league title. Are they about to go behind at home to last year's runners-up? Yainaga has had plenty of time to make up his mind where he's going to put this. He's the one waiting to take the penalty. An excellent record he has from the spot. It's Yainaga, goalkeeper gets a glove to it off the bar and holds on to it and redeems himself with a super save and keeps it at 0-0. Astonishing stuff. Well, he's barely been involved in the game, really, Jun Ishimori, for most of the match, and all of a sudden he is central to the story. Tried to go down the middle, really, did J.LEAGUE, but it wasn't good enough. It was too close to the keeper. And it's a crucial save. J.LEAGUE will try and, in turn, redeem himself here as he links with Yamane, who provides the cross. Frontale still sensing their chance. J.LEAGUE's missed his kick, though. And for him, the frustration builds, and they have to be careful to guard against the counter. Anderson Lopez does have support arriving from Miyachi as he tries to take on Kuramaya, who in turn will stretch to prevent the concession of the corner. Now we have a real game on now. Well, this is breathless stuff. A match that at times had meandered has all of a sudden come to life in dramatic fashion. But still, what we don't have is the opening goal. Another change, Marcus Jr. making way. Unaga coming on, who's been a regular recently off the bench for F Marinos. He continues that run. Not to start a league game. His first season at the club. He did score recently off the bench against Shonan Bellmare at the start of the month. Grateful still to be on terms after the penalty drama at the other end. It's the 20th penalty that he has faced in his career, Jun Ishimori, and it's the 5th one that he's kept out. Second penalty save of this season, actually, having also denied Yuki Horigome of Sagan Tosu in a League Cup game earlier in the summer. And they went on to win by 6-1. This one you suspect might be rather more important in the overall context of the game, and maybe even the season. There's Albert. To stop him, but they did so ultimately illegally, according to the referee, who's given the free kick in favour of the Brazilian. He was just caught here. Little word of warning and no more. Rosato wasn't quite able to stop him. Support was quick to arrive. Closing quarter of an hour, which should be fascinating fare, following on from what we've just seen. Double jeopardy really prevented Ishimori being sent off, which was why he was able to stay on the field to face the penalty that he conceded and to save the penalty that he conceded. Nearer knowing where the Kanagawa Derby Day honours are going to go. Yamane, he goes cross-field. Tono, player who won the penalty, going for goal again, and thwarted once more by Ishimori. Unconventional save, but ultimately an important one. Tono really has made a difference. Got 4 goals in the Cups this season, but he's yet to open his league account. Despite featuring in all but 2 games. It's about all that Ishimori really could do with that one. Dealt with it impressively. Keeping his team on terms right now. Frontale do sense their chance, though. Frustrated that they couldn't score from the spot, but they are keeping the pressure on. Very congested penalty area, came back off the bar. Here's J.LEAGUE, who is underneath it, just over the head of Xiao Schmidt. A little bit of pinball in the penalty area as it's returned. Xiao Schmidt again sees his effort blocked. Rather desperate by those in blue. Getting the defensive job done, just about for now anyway. J.LEAGUE. Tono goes infield to Tachi Banada. He thought about the shot, I think. changed his mind pretty swiftly. A chance here for F Marinos just to clear their collective heads, really. Grateful to their goalkeeper for the fact that they remain on level terms. Just the 3 clean sheets for him across his first 17 games of the season. And if he is to add another one tonight, then he will have played a big part in doing so, despite spending a lot of the evening as a spectator. The injury concern here is for Eduardo. Already without a key centre-back because of a metatarsal injury, keeping Ryotaro Tsunoda sidelined at the moment. To be a similar sort of area where Eduardo was hurt, as we take the opportunity to look again at the penalty save. Got a glove to help it onto the bar. Was first to his feet to claim the loose ball as well. He can barely believe it. Toru Iniki must have thought that was Frontale's moment, particularly given how reliable J.LEAGUE has tended to be from the penalty spot down the years. Scored dramatically, a winner from the spot at Kashima Antlers in stoppage time back in February, did J.LEAGUE. Looks like a change potentially going to be forced upon F Marinos as a result of the injury. Here they come in the meantime with Albert, and he showed a little bit too much of it to Kuramayer. His touch was a fraction heavy. Taken off Albert this time. Borazzato. Well, that's 10 minutes of the 90. Still the chance for somebody to make themselves a hero in the Kanagawa Prefecture on Derby Day. You only have to look at how this match was marketed to know that this is the big Kanagawa Derby. This is the one that generally tends to matter that bit more, and remains the case really, despite the respective standings of the clubs in the table. Only they are 2 of the title contenders going toe-to-toe. Marinos, the leaders, advancing here. Anderson Lopez can't quite finish it off. Elber into his path, and it looked for all the world as if that would be the breakthrough goal for Yokohama F Marinos, particularly when it was their top scorer on the end of that opportunity. And he's been hurt in the process, colliding, I think, with the post when trying to finish it off. This time Elber had timed his run really well. He'd stayed onside, rolled it into the path of Anderson Lopez. He tried to take it audaciously, really, with the outside of the boot, just flick it goalwards. And a more orthodox finish might have been more effective, as it turned out. I think given maybe the angle that the challenge was coming at him from, persuaded him to try something a little bit different. And there's the collision with the frame of the goal that followed, just to add injury to insult. And if it does end all square, both teams will reflect on what might have been. That is for sure. So further changes for Frontale. Sasaki and Omanami coming on. Borazzato and Wakazaka are being replaced. Another double change by Toru Iniki. Those changes will happen first, but there's activities you saw on the F Marinos bench as well, all going on late in the game. Mizunuma is going to be called for here. Would have been a little disappointed, maybe, not to start the game. So Wakazaka and Borazzato's parts are played. Sasaki coming off the bench for the 6th time this season. Omanami into the defence as well. Azunuma's on for Nagato, is the one that wasn't able to continue, and Sugimoto replaces Elber. Extra substitution available, of course, because of the nature of the injury to Matsupara, counting as a concussion substitution at the end of the first half, so they've been able to make a sixth change in the match with F Marinos. Their full complement now used. And it might just take a little while to settle down once more. Nobody will be more desperate than he for Frontale to go on and win the game, having seen his effort thwarted from the spot. Tenchi Banada, disappointed club captain at the start of the season, and has taken over the armband now with Naborizato going off. This was swung in by Omanami. That's his first involvement since coming on. Former Kashiwa Reysol player. Third straight game in which he stepped off the bench. Game is certainly getting stretched though. Sasaki, and he was looking for Yenaga, and his intentions read by Ishimori, who was out quickly to gather. And just as quickly releases the ball to try and get his team on the attack. As the end-to-end helter-skelter nature of the game goes on. 0-0 it might be heading for the last 5 minutes, but we've certainly not been short of incident tonight. Still, you wouldn't like to call it, really, as F Marinos look for Miyachi. Yamane keeps it in, Zhao Schmidt. Tenchi Banada. That late goal that he scored when they met in Matchweek 1. Late goal here would mean that much more. Yamane running onto this, and still with MEIJI Yamane, straight to the goalkeeper, plenty of power, and he's in the way again as Ishimori, and then away by Eduardo. And once more, the goalkeeper for Yokohama F Marinos, Ishimori, stands between Kawasaki Frontale and a late lead. On this occasion, not once but twice. But both shots really were struck straight at him. Struck, yes, with plenty of power. But the goalkeeper equal to each of them. Dayatono will take the corner to come. It's a deeper delivery this time. It's glanced away from immediate danger. Cleared rather more decisively this time, but Ishimori was in the way again. He might have to be once more as Yenaga takes possession here. Appeals for a penalty this time, a little more optimistic, and in fairness, they weren't really raised by those in white. Still hoping to be a hero, but Ishimori at the moment is the one who has seemingly assumed that mantle. Yenaga, and he did have Segawa waiting in the middle. And Frontale now are looking the more likely winners. Marinos beaten only 3 times in the league all season. Beaten in their last 7 matches. Winning 6 of those, but hanging on a little bit here. Back, pretty much everybody back to try and defend the corner as Tachibana strikes it again. It's straight at the goalkeeper. And Shimori's reactions, unsurprisingly, were equal to it. Did catch it sweetly enough off the right boot. Kento Tachibana looking for his first goal since he scored right at the end at Todoroki when these sides last met. An awful lot has happened over the course of the first half of the season since then. Goal was, in the end, too late to be anything but a consolation for Frontale. Goal at a similar stage today would mean a whole lot more. We're in the last minute of the 90 now at Nissan Stadium. Kida, forward to Miyachi. Marinos trying to take their turn to attack. Unaka finds Kida. Patient in possession. The champions, so they look to foray forward here with Takuya Kida. There's Kida. Something coming through him when they do advance. We've got 5 additional minutes to play at the end of the 90. Miyachi. Tanabe. Kida again. Straight through to Kami Fukumoto, who's perhaps actually been more involved than his opposite number, but most of his work has been routine this evening. Couldn't say the same for Ichimori at the other end. Clearances by Kurumaya. Who's effectively really playing as an attacking left-back right now. The Nagato went off. Might come under pressure in that position. Yenaga. Pass from Yamane. Omanami. Akihiro Yenaga, no way beyond Kida. His presence was important. Omanami. Tell something of the story that everybody bar Kami Fukumoto really was in the other half of the field. The away team on the attack in stoppage time in Yokohama. Point in isolation would be a useful enough result for Kawasaki Frontale. But in the context both of their season and indeed in the second half that they've been involved in here, they will surely be disappointed if it does finish this way. But it hasn't finished yet. Tono, he has really been in the mood. He's the difference maker since he came on. And he was caught by Eduardo. It's a free kick in a position of some promise for Frontale. Taking it pretty quickly here. Determined not to waste any time as they try and turn 1 point into 3. Is Shimori the major reason why they are not currently on course to do that? It's involved once more. There's the goalkeeper in the concession of the corner. Tono to take. Stands it up deep. There's enough space for Mizunuma to head it clear. It It will come again, potentially. Tono. Omanami was calling for it and gets it, and it just needs to be turned in on the line! The crucial touch, which might just decide it in stoppage time. Frontale in front, after all. Right at the end. Kuromaya, I think, is the one that will claim it. And the champions are moments away from a first home defeat of the season. Having survived scare after scare, ultimately a below-par performance perhaps has caught up with them right at the end. And it's two of the defenders involved. Omanami, who made the run and provided the service, for Kuromaya somehow to turn it in. His presence in that position was all it required, really. He almost missed it, but it wasn't really possible to miss it from that position. And having seen a penalty saved, having seen shot after shot struck straight at the opposing keeper, they have finally found a way beyond Ishimori. They finally forced themselves in front in a season which for Frontale has badly disappointed, in which they have under-delivered. They are ahead at the home of the champions, but hang on, it's not quite done yet. As we play on into the last of the 5 minutes that were added on, and Anderson Lopez's effort is deflected over the top. And Muscat's side have had their moments as well, they've missed their chances as well. And ultimately that could prove decisive today, unless they can conjure something from the corner. This might be their last chance. Ishimori is up for it. That really would have cemented his status as the match winner, but instead he's left an unguarded goal at the other end as he tries to get back there. Is it going to be good enough? Not quite. Oh, not quite. Segawa had his sights set, and it rolls just the other side of the post. The fact that we have only seconds to go at the referee's discretion means it shouldn't matter too much. Or will it? Can F Marinos launch one more attack here? Dramatic climax to a compelling contest. Hatanaka. And still we go on. But that needed to be better. And that really sums up a lot of the story for F Marinos, certainly in this second half. In the final third, it needed to be better. Not often that they are shut out at home, but they are beaten at home for the first time in J1 this season. Kawasaki Frontale have turned the tables against the champions, and they've won at Nissan Stadium. Kevin Muscat sees his side's long unbeaten run brought to its conclusion by a stoppage time winner from Shintaro Kuromaya, who picked quite some moment to score his first goal of the league season. His touch was the decisive one, and it was the merest of touches right on the goal line that has proved the difference between these two teams in the end. Frontale relieved, having seen a penalty saved, having spurned further chances, that they did reap their reward right at the end. Ishimori, though, so unfortunate to finish on the losing side after the part that he played in preserving parity until those closing moments. Full time at Nissan Stadium, what a finish to the game. Yokohama F Marinos 0, Kawasaki Frontale 1. Well, just the one goal in the end. It looked for so long as if that would be the one moment missing from the match, that we wouldn't get the goal. We had pretty much everything else in a compelling story. Both teams with efforts disallowed for offside, a penalty awarded, conceded by Ishimori and saved by Ishimori, that kept Muscat's team on terms at that stage. They too had their chances. Jan Mateus missed a gilt-edged opening early in the game, which looks even more costly now at the conclusion. Well, they had scored in every home match this season in their last 15 home games in total in this division, dating back to October until today, when they have been shut out by their great rivals, by their Kanagawa neighbours, who, despite trailing the champions in the table, have taken the Derby Day honours on the field today. And they will argue, well, Frontale, that they did enough in the second half to deserve it. It's an argument that F Marinos could counter with some justification. They too had their chances, but ultimately they weren't good enough to take them. They weren't at their fluent best, and they suffered defeat for the first time in front of their own fans here this season, at the end of what has been quite a wretched week for them when factoring in the exit from the Emperor's Cup on Wednesday as well against J2 opponents. Not the way that they wanted to sign off for the mini summer break in J1 and go into that hectic schedule of friendlies that they will play over the next week or so against Celtic and Manchester City before they resume the defence of their title at Urawa Reds on the 6th of August. Frontale with that extra game to play, the rearranged fixture at Vissel Kobe next week, when they will hope to do F Marinos a favour, of course. Vissel Kobe are their closest challengers currently, and F Marinos have missed the chance to stretch further clear of them before their rivals play tomorrow. Well, this is a story that had a little bit of everything. Let's get you some reaction.
ゴールでした。大南選手の折り返し、体で押し込んでいったように見えましたが、あのシーン振り返ってもらえますか？
いやもう本当は、役割的には戻って、リスクバックのしなくちゃいけなかったですけど、本当もう、今日勝たないと本当優勝は厳しいなと思ってたので、拓磨なら絶対上げてくれるなと思って最後信じ込んで走りました。
やはり戻らなきゃいけないところをしっかりあの場所にあえていたんですね。
そうですね、もう本当に、今日に関して言えばなかなか主導権をずっと相手に握られて、どうにかこれで勝ちに持っていければ、